Now we're going to talk about a few other places that Islam spread into and some of the impact that they had. First, I want to specifically mention what we today call Spain. It's on a geographic entity called the Iberian Peninsula. The Muslims, when they control it, it was referred to as Al-Andalus. Al-Andalus, or Andalusian Spain. Al-Andalus, or Andalusian Spain. Al-Andalus is the Islamic Iberian Peninsula. It was conquered in the early 7th century when Islamic armies crossed what's called the Straits of Gibraltar. Have you guys heard that before? That really narrow strip of water between Africa and Spain. And they made their way and conquered the Iberian Peninsula. Islamic armies actually pushed beyond Spain. Islamic armies actually pushed beyond Spain and went into France in the year 732. And we will talk about this again later when we talk about Western Europe. But in the year 732, there is a battle between Muslim armies coming from Spain and Frankish armies, or like very early French armies. 732 is called the Battle of Tours. The Battle of Tours. Who do you think won, Muslims or the Franks? The Franks won. And how do we know the Franks won? Because France never became conquered by Islam, like Spain was. They're early French people. We'll talk about them in a week and a half or so. But this Battle of Tours is one of these monumental, turning point moments in history. And it's kind of fun to think about how different history might have developed had the Muslim armies won that battle. What it might have meant for the future of France, or the future of even England and then the United States, had Islamic armies conquered Tours at that point, or won that battle. Al-Andalus becomes a center for learning for the Islamic world and for Europeans. For Western Europeans that wanted to get into some education, they went down into Al-Andalus. And they studied in great cities of Islamic Spain, like Cordoba is one you might have heard of. Cordoba. The earliest universities in Europe were not Oxford and Cambridge or the Sorbonne in Paris. They were in Islamic Spain. They were in Al-Andalus. The Muslim world will also push into India. The Islamic world will also be pushing further and further east and make its way across the South Asian subcontinent. In the year 1206, Islamic expansion would move to the city of Delhi in northern India. And what is known as the Delhi Sultanate, D-E-L-H-I, not like where you get your lunch meats, the Delhi Sultanate. A sultan is just another word for a king. Yes?
What year was that?
1206. The Delhi Sultanate will born. Now this is an Islamic nation in northern India. And they will spread all the way across northern India into what is today Bangladesh. And if you know anything about India today, this encompasses some of what we call Pakistan and North India and Bangladesh. This is where the majority of Muslim people in India today live, in this northern part of India, because of the spread of the Delhi Sultanate. Please note that in India, Islam never completely replaces Hinduism. In fact, it doesn't come close to replacing Hinduism. But India is such a massive country population-wise that even though there are 20 to 25% of India is Muslim, that's still like 250 million people. So there are almost as many Muslims in India as a minority religion as there are people living in the United States. It is a massively populated country. There's more Muslims living in India today than in any other Middle Eastern nation, by far. All right? Islam will spread also into Southeast Asia. Islam will spread into Southeast Asia. This today is what we call the country of Indonesia. Indonesia. Now, we said already that a lot of Muslim lands were conquered by Islamic armies. Do you think that's how Indonesia became Islamic? Why not? Yeah, you can't march your armies across the ocean. So how do you think Muslims came to Indonesia? How do you think Islam spread to Indonesia? Dominic? Trade routes, merchants, very good. Merchant activity, spreading Islam. Yes, sir? The Delhi Sultanate? That was not the Abbasids. That was like other Muslims that just pushed further east. That was after the Abbasids had already started to have their decline.
So what is the Delhi Sultanate? Is that just the movement of it?
It's an Islamic kingdom that is pushed and created in northern India, based on the city of Delhi. So who rules the Delhi Sultanate? The Sultans of the Delhi Sultanate. I don't have a family name for you. So here in Indonesia, we're going to see over time more and more conversion to Islam. Indonesia today is the most populous Muslim nation on the planet. There are more Muslims in Indonesia than any other nation in the world. So it's kind of interesting. The two countries of the world that actually, let's go three. The three countries of the world with the most Muslims in it. Indonesia, India, and I want to say Pakistan, but it could be Nigeria, but I think it might be Pakistan. Probably might be Nigeria. I got to look it up. Either way, the most populous Muslim nations of the world are far from the Middle East, right? Okay, keep that in mind. Last, we're going to talk about Islam spreading into North Africa. In the earliest days of Islam, we talked about the Umayyad Caliphate conquering North Africa. Over the next few centuries, we will see Islam spread into sub-Saharan Africa. How do you think Islam will get there? Very good. Same way it's going to make it to Indonesia. Trans-Saharan trade routes. It's hard to march massive armies over the Saharan desert. But merchants are always going back and forth. And remember, what kind of products are they exchanging? Gold from the south to the north. What's coming from the north to the south? Salt. Very good. Salt from the north to the south. There are 3 Islamic kingdoms that will be born, or Islamic states that will be born in sub-Saharan Africa. You should know these. They are Ghana, Mali, and Songhai. Ghana, Mali, and Songhai. I'm very excited. In 2 weeks, we are going to have a couple visitors to our class, Wayne State professors, history professors. One of them is a professor of African history. And so I'm going to ask her to talk much more about these Islamic states in sub-Saharan Africa. But the kingdoms of Ghana, Mali, and Songhai, they will adopt Islam as their state religions. And there's a very easy reason why. We already talked about Muhammad and the earliest caliphs. They were leaders of the church and or the faith and leaders of the state at the same time. That makes them pretty powerful, right? And having that kind of power gives you a lot of... Way up top, I'm not tall enough. Gives you legitimacy. It makes you be seen as the legitimate ruler of your people, right? And so these leaders of Ghana, Mali, and Songhai absolutely like the idea of having that political leadership and religious leadership in the hands of one person. Makes them even more powerful. In Mali, there's a great king named Mansa Musa. You might remember him from 7th grade geography. That's a name that you probably came across back in the day. Mansa Musa was a leader. Here we have him. Mansa Musa was a leader of the state of Mali. And he famously took one of the most extravagant and opulent journeys from Mali up to North Africa, across the Sahara Desert, with 1,000 supporters and hundreds of camels carrying millions of dollars in gold, across North Africa, getting into the Middle East, down into Arabia. What do you think he's doing? Making his journey to Mecca. He's taking the Hajj. He's making the Hajj, right? And he is going and showing the world what Mali has, the wealth and the opulence that Mali has. And a lot of others opened up their eyes and said, whoa, there's a lot of gold down there in Africa, right? And later it hit the writings about Mansa Musa will encourage many Europeans to want to get into Africa to get their hands on some of that gold. For our purposes here, Mansa Musa was just a great and powerful king of Mali, and he was Muslim. So he's got to take his Hajj. And he went in to show off some of his riches and to take part in this requirement within the religion of Islam. All right?